Rain pelted the windows of our brownstone as I paced the living room for the third hour straight. The grandfather clock in the hallway chimed midnight, each resonant toll another reminder that Nathan still wasn't home. My phone displayed the same message he'd sent 4 hours earlier. Big client emergency. Working late. Don't wait up. I'd stopped believing these messages around the 6th time they appeared, always on Thursday nights, always with the same dismissive tone that suggested I shouldn't ask questions. Tonight, though, something felt different. The rain, perhaps, or the fact that I'd found a receipt in his jacket pocket from a restaurant I'd never heard of, dated last Thursday, another working late night. My thumb hovered over his contact photo, a candid shot from our anniversary, trip to Maine last year, back when his smile still reached his eyes when he looked at me. Before I could talk myself out of it, I opened the Uber app instead. I needed air, space to think. Maybe a drive through the sleeping city would clear my head. Mercer residence? The Uber driver, Marco, according to the app, was middle-aged with kind eyes that crinkled at the corners when he smiled. His car smelled faintly of cinnamon. Yes, that's me. I slid into the back seat, my raincoat dripping onto the leather. Where to tonight, Mrs. Mercer? Just drive, please. Somewhere, anywhere. I caught his concerned glance in the rearview mirror. Sorry, that's not helpful. Maybe downtown, by the waterfront? He nodded, pulling away from the curb. The waterfront is nice, even in the rain. Very peaceful this time of night. The car's interior felt like a confessional booth, dark, intimate, anonymous. Rain drummed on the roof, creating white noise that seemed to insulate us from the rest of the world. You know, Marco said after a few minutes of silence, I think I've driven your husband before. My heart stuttered. Oh? Tall guy, dark hair, always in nice suits, works at that financial firm downtown, Wakefield and Associates. That's him. The confirmation felt like both a relief and a punch to the gut. Nathan. He's a regular. Always very polite, good tipper. Marco paused at a red light, raindrops racing each other down the windshield. Though usually I'm taking him to that address in Beacon Hill, not the office downtown. The air in the car suddenly felt thin. Beacon Hill? Marco seemed to realize he might have said too much. I'm sorry, I shouldn't have— No, please. My voice was steady, calmer than I felt. What address in Beacon Hill? He hesitated, then met my eyes in the mirror. Brownstone on Chestnut Street. Fancy place. I've dropped him there maybe 5-6 times now, always Thursday nights. The world tilted on its axis. 7 years of marriage, and in one sentence from a stranger, everything I thought I knew about my life cracked open. Mrs. Mercer, are you okay? I wasn't, but I needed to be. Actually, can you take me to that address instead? Marco's eyes widened slightly. I don't think that's a good— Please. The word came out raw, desperate. I need to know. His gaze held mine for a long moment before he nodded, making a U-turn at the next intersection. Chestnut Street it is. Nathan and I met 8 years ago at a mutual friends gallery opening. Me fresh out of architecture school, him already 3 years into his career at Wakefield. He'd been standing in front of an abstract painting, head tilted, completely absorbed. It's about isolation in the digital age, I'd said, coming to stand beside him. At least that's what the artist told me. He'd turned to me with a smile that transformed his serious face. I was going to say it looked like someone spilled paint on their way to the real exhibition. I'd laughed, surprised by his candor. I'm Eliza. Nathan Mercer. His handshake was firm, confident. And I'd much rather hear about what you think of the art than what the artist intended. We'd spent the next 3 hours wandering the gallery, critiquing and admiring, then moved to a nearby wine bar where conversation flowed until closing time. He was intelligent, ambitious, funny in a dry, understated way. By the end of the night, I was already falling. Our courtship was a whirlwind. Weekend trips to coastal towns, Late nights discussing everything from politics to childhood memories, mornings where we couldn't bear to leave bed, tangled in sheets in each other. 6 months in, he proposed on the rooftop of my apartment building, the city skyline twinkling behind him. "You're my person," he'd said, voice thick with emotion as he knelt before me. "The one who makes everything make sense." I'd believed him completely. The early years of marriage were good. Challenging as we both built our careers, but good. I joined a prestigious architecture firm specializing in sustainable design. Nathan climbed the ranks at Wakefield, eventually making junior partner. We bought the brownstone, renovated it together on weekends, talked about starting a family soon. The changes were so gradual I barely noticed them. Nathan working later. The easy affection between us cooling into something more perfunctory. Sex becoming less frequent, more mechanical when it happened. Conversations that once lasted hours reduced to surface-level updates about our days. I told myself it was normal, the settling of a marriage, the demands of career advancement. Even as I watched my friends' relationships with a twinge of envy, noting the way their partners still looked at them with desire and interest. The first time Nathan said he was working late on a Thursday, I'd ordered in his favorite Thai food. Anyway, kept it warm until he came home at 11:30, smelling faintly of a perfume that wasn't mine. "Client dinner," he'd explained, not quite meeting my eyes. Sorry I didn't call. I'd accepted the excuse, pushed away the uneasy feeling. The second time, I'd asked more questions. By the third time, we'd had our first real fight about it. "Don't you trust me?" he'd demanded, his defensiveness a red flag I chose to ignore. After that, I stopped asking, and he stopped explaining. The Thursday night absences became our unspoken reality, until tonight. The Uber slowed to a stop across from a stately brownstone on Chestnut Street. Light glowed behind elegant curtains on the second floor. Even through the rain, I could see it was exactly the kind of place that would appeal to Nathan. Historic, prestigious, tasteful. "That's it," Marco confirmed quietly. Number 43. I stared at the building, my mind racing with possibilities. A colleague's place? A secret office? The most obvious answer burned in my throat. "Do you want me to wait?" Marco asked, his voice gentle. "Yes, please." I couldn't take my eyes off those illuminated windows. "I won't be long." The rain had eased to a drizzle as I crossed the street, heart hammering against my ribs. The brownstone had a security door at the entrance, but a resident was just exiting, a middle-aged woman walking a small dog. She held the door for me with a polite smile, assuming I belonged there. Inside was a marble-floored lobby with an antique elevator and a directory of names beside buzzers. I scanned it quickly, looking for anything familiar. Nothing under Mercer, but my gaze caught on the name beside apartment 2B, V. Caldwell. Vanessa Caldwell. Nathan's colleague. The woman he'd mentioned increasingly often over the past year. Vanessa thinks we should approach the Gelman account differently. I'm having lunch with Vanessa to discuss the Peterson portfolio. Vanessa's insights on the market are really exceptional. I'd met her once, at the firm's Christmas party. Tall, confident, impeccably dressed. The way she'd looked at Nathan, with that mixture of professional respect and something more intimate, had made me uneasy. But I'd dismissed the feeling as insecurity. Now, standing in this lobby, that memory took on new significance. The elevator was ornate, with a folding gate that closed with a clatter. I pressed 2, my reflection in the polished brass panel looking back at me, pale, determined, afraid. The second-floor hallway was hushed, carpeted in deep burgundy. Apartment 2B was at the end, soft jazz audible through the door. I stood there frozen, unsure what I was going to do. Knock? Listen? Run away? Before I could decide, I heard it. Nathan's laugh. That distinctive sound I'd fallen in love with, now muffled through oak and plaster, belonging to someone else's evening. My body moved on instinct. 3 sharp knocks on the door before I could reconsider. The music lowered. Murmured voices. Footsteps approaching. When the door opened, Nathan's expression cycled rapidly through confusion, shock, and guilt. He wore dress pants and a half-unbuttoned shirt, feet bare, a glass of red wine in his hand. Behind him, I glimpsed a stylish living room with floor-to-ceiling bookshelves and a view of the Boston skyline. "Eliza!" My name sounded foreign in his mouth. "What are you doing here?" "Working late?" I asked, my voice surprisingly steady. He stepped into the hallway, pulling the door nearly closed behind him. "This isn't what you think." "Then what is it, Nathan?" "Because it looks exactly like what I think." He ran a hand through his hair, a nervous gesture I'd once found endearing. "It's complicated. Vanessa and I are working on a sensitive client situation. We needed privacy. In her apartment? At midnight? With wine and jazz? You're making it sound, who is it, Nate?" A woman's voice called from inside, followed by Vanessa herself appearing in the doorway. She wore a silk blouse and tailored pants, looking effortlessly elegant even at this hour. Her expression shifted from confusion to recognition. "Oh, Eliza, right?" The casual way she said my name, the intimate Nate when everyone, including me, called him Nathan, the territorial hand she placed on his arm. It all confirmed what I already knew. "How long?" I asked, looking between them. "Eliza, let's not do this here," Nathan pleaded, glancing down the hallway. "How long?" Vanessa answered, her voice cool and unapologetic. 8 months. 8 months. While I renovated our home office as a surprise for his birthday. While we visited his parents for Christmas. While we discussed trying for a baby this year. "I was going to tell you," Nathan said, reaching for my arm. I stepped back. "When? After the next promotion? After you moved in with her? Or were you planning to just keep lying indefinitely?" "I never meant to hurt you." The cliché of it was almost as painful as the betrayal. "But you did it anyway. Every Thursday night. And probably other nights I don't even know about. It's not that simple, Eliza. We grew apart." "You know we did." "No, Nathan. You pulled away." "There's a difference." Vanessa shifted impatiently. "Nathan, we should continue this conversation another time. The Gelman presentation? Is that even real?" I asked, suddenly wondering how many work emergencies had been fabricated. The guilty flash in Nathan's eyes answered before he could. "I've been a fool." I laughed, a hollow sound. "God, I've been such a fool." "You're not a fool," Nathan said softly. "We just changed. No, I'm definitely a fool. Because I actually waited up for you tonight. Made your favorite dinner. Again." I shook my head. "The worst part is, I wouldn't even have known if an Uber driver hadn't recognized our address." Nathan's expression hardened. "You followed me? Had me tracked? Don't you dare turn this around on me." My voice rose. "You've been lying to my face for 8 months." A door opened down the hallway, an elderly man peering out curiously. "Eliza, please," Nathan hissed. "Let's talk about this at home." "Home," I repeated. The word tasted bitter. "You mean that place you've been using as a convenient base of operations while you build a life with someone else?" I turned to Vanessa. "Does he tell you he's working late too? Or am I the only one who gets that particular lie?" Her composed expression faltered slightly. "I'm going now," I said, suddenly exhausted. "Enjoy your sensitive client situation." Nathan caught my wrist as I turned away. "Wait, you can't just leave like this." I pulled free of his grasp. "Watch me." The elevator ride down was a blur, my mind cycling through years of memories now tainted by doubt. Had there been signs I'd missed? Other women before Vanessa? Had anything in our marriage been real? Marco was waiting outside, leaning against his car. He straightened when he saw me, concern evident on his face. "I'm sorry," he said as I approached. I shouldn't have said anything. I shook my head, tears finally starting to fall. "No, thank you for telling me the truth. It's more than my husband ever did." The drive back to my brownstone, no longer hours in my mind, was silent except for my occasional directions. Marco kept glancing at me in the rearview mirror but respected my need for quiet. When we arrived, I stayed seated, unable to face the emptiness waiting inside. "Can we just drive a little longer?" I asked. Without a word, Marco pulled away from the curb again. He navigated through the quiet streets of Boston, eventually making his way to the waterfront, my original destination. "You know," he said finally as we parked overlooking the harbor. "I was married for 15 years before my wife left me for her yoga instructor." I looked up, surprised by the personal disclosure. "Fernando," he continued with a wry smile. 29 years old with perfect abs and a man bun. I hated him. Hated her too for a while. What happened? Life went on. I was angry, then sad, then just tired of feeling bad. He turned in his seat to face me. Eventually, I realized I'd been miserable in that marriage for years. We both had. Her affair was just the final crack in an already broken foundation. I considered his words, thinking about the slow erosion of my relationship with Nathan. "How did you get past it?" "One day at a time. I went to therapy. Was a therapist myself before all this, ironically enough. Started driving Uber to meet new people, hear their stories. Rebuilt my life on my terms." He smiled sadly. "It still hurts sometimes, but it's a dull ache now. Not the searing pain it once was." We sat in companionable silence, watching the harbor lights reflect on the dark water. "What will you do now?" Marco asked eventually. It was the question I'd been avoiding since stepping into the elevator at Vanessa's building. The answer came with surprising clarity. "I'm going to pack a bag, go to my friend Tara's for the night, and call a locksmith in the morning." Marco raised his eyebrows. "Changing the locks? It's my house too, and I'm not the one who broke our vows." I felt a surge of resolve. "Tomorrow I'll call a lawyer, and then I'm going to focus on the Richardson project. It's this sustainable community center I've been designing. It could be my firm's biggest achievement yet, and I've been distracted, trying to save a marriage that was already gone." Sounds like a good plan. After that, I sighed. I guess I figure out who I am without Nathan. It's been so long, I'm not sure I remember. Marco turned back to the wheel. "From what I've seen tonight, Mrs. Mercer, you're someone who faces the truth head-on. That's more than most people can say." We drove back to the brownstone in a different kind of silence. Not shocked or numb, but contemplative, almost peaceful. When we arrived, Marco handed me a card, my personal number. "If you need a ride, or just someone to talk to who understands." I took it with genuine gratitude. Thank you, Marco, for everything tonight. Inside, the house felt different already, as if the knowledge I now carried had physically transformed the space. I moved through the rooms with new awareness, noticing things I'd been blind to before, how few personal photos Nathan kept displayed, the stack of architectural magazines I'd stopped reading when he commented they were cluttering the coffee table, the guest room I'd been slowly converting into a home office, because Nathan said a nursery was premature. In our bedroom, I packed methodically, clothes, toiletries, the jewelry my grandmother had left me, important documents. I left my wedding ring on the dresser. As I zipped my suitcase closed, my phone chimed with a text. "Nathan. Coming home. We need to talk." I didn't reply, just called Tara. "I need a place to stay tonight," I said when she answered, voice thick with sleep. "Eliza? What's wrong?" "Everything. Nothing. I'll explain when I get there." "I'll put on coffee," she said without hesitation. I ordered another Uber, not Marco this time, and waited on the porch, watching the silent street. Part of me hoped Nathan would arrive before my ride, that we would have the confrontation now, while my anger was still fresh and protective. Another part hoped I'd be long gone, leaving him to wonder about the empty closet and the ring on the dresser. The Uber arrived first. Tara's apartment was small but welcoming. String lights glowing softly in the living room, the promised coffee brewing. She took one look at me, suitcase in hand, eyes red-rimmed, and pulled me into a fierce hug. "Who do I need to kill?" she asked when she finally released me. I laughed despite myself. "It's a long story. I've got all night." I told her everything as we sat on her worn couch, coffee cooling in our mugs. The Thursdays. The Uber driver. Vanessa Caldwell's brownstone. Tara listened without interruption, her expression darkening with each new detail. "That absolute bastard," she said when I finished. 8 months? While you've been killing yourself trying to save your marriage? Apparently. And this Vanessa, she knew he was married? She's met me. At the firm's Christmas party last year, Tara's eyes widened. That was right around when it started, wasn't it? God, the nerve of them. My phone had been buzzing periodically throughout our conversation, Nathan calling, then texting, his messages growing increasingly desperate. I'd silenced it without reading them. "What are you going to do?" Tara asked, echoing Marco's question from earlier. "Leave him," I said simply. "It's already over. Has been for months. I just didn't know it. And you're sure about that? No chance of, I don't know, counseling or something?" She looked skeptical even as she suggested it. "Would you take back someone who lied to your face for 8 months? Who was building a life with someone else while coming home to you?" Tara considered this. "No, I'd probably set their clothes on fire." "Don't tempt me." I smiled weakly. "But no, there's nothing to save. Even if he ended things with Vanessa tomorrow, I'd never trust him again. And honestly, now that I know, I can see our marriage has been broken for longer than just these 8 months. I took a deep breath. This is clarifying in a way. Painful, but clarifying. "Silver linings in a shitstorm," Tara said, raising her mug in a mock toast. Something like that. She insisted I take her bed while she slept on the couch. Exhausted as I was, sleep proved elusive. I kept replaying moments from the past year, reevaluating them with my new knowledge. Nathan's decreased interest in our future plans, his defensiveness when questioned about late nights, the growing distance in his eyes when he looked at me. Around dawn, I finally drifted off, waking to the smell of pancakes and the sound of Tara singing along to the radio in the kitchen. For one disorienting moment, I forgot why I was there. Then reality crashed back. My phone showed 17 missed calls and a dozen texts from Nathan. I scrolled through them without opening any, then switched it off completely. Whatever he had to say could wait until I'd spoken to a lawyer. Tara set a plate of pancakes in front of me when I emerged. "Battle food," she explained. "My mom always made these when we had a tough day ahead." "Thank you," I said, genuinely touched. "For everything. What's the game plan today?" I'd been thinking about this in the sleepless hours of the night. "First, I call Richard Chen." "The divorce lawyer?" "My cousin used him last year," I nodded. "Then I call a locksmith. After that, I go to the office and throw myself into work for a few days while I figure out next steps. You can stay here as long as you need." I appreciate that. But I'm not letting Nathan drive me out of my own home. I stabbed a pancake more forcefully than necessary. If anyone's leaving, it's him. By 10, I'd scheduled an appointment with Richard Chen for that afternoon and arranged for a locksmith to meet me at the brownstone at noon. Tara, who worked remotely as a graphic designer, offered to come with me. "Moral support," she insisted. "Plus, I want to see his face when he realizes he's locked out." I loved her for the offer, but shook my head. "This is something I need to do myself," she understood, hugging me tightly before I left. "Call me the second you need anything. And Eliza, you're going to be okay. Better than okay." For the first time since Marco's innocent comment in the Uber, I felt like that might actually be true. The locksmith was efficient, changing both the front and back door locks in under an hour. I paid him, pocketed the new keys, and steeled myself for what came next. I didn't have to wait long. Nathan's key turned in the old lock just after 2, followed by confused jiggling when it didn't work. Then knocking, increasingly insistent. I opened the door but blocked the entrance, facing my husband of 7 years like the stranger he had become. "What the hell, Eliza?" he demanded, gesturing to the new lock. "You changed the locks?" "Yes. You can't just—" He ran a hand through his disheveled hair, looking like he hadn't slept. "I've been calling you all night." "I was busy. Where were you?" I was worried sick. The audacity of his concern infuriated me. "Were you? That's interesting." considering you've been living a double life for the better part of a year without worrying how that might affect me." His shoulders sagged. "Can I come in, please? We need to talk about this like adults." I hesitated, then stepped aside. Not because I owed him anything, but because I needed this confrontation. Needed to say my piece to his face. Nathan looked around the foyer as if seeing it for the first time, noticing the missing photos, the empty hooks where his coats usually hung. "I want a divorce," I said without preamble. He flinched as if I'd struck him. "Eliza, please. What happened last night? It's not what you think. Stop lying." "It's exactly what I think. Vanessa confirmed it herself. It was a mistake. A terrible mistake. Which part? The affair or getting caught?" He had no answer for that. 8 months, Nathan. My voice cracked slightly. 8 months of lying to my face, of making me think I was crazy for suspecting something was wrong. "Do you have any idea what that did to me?" "I never meant for any of this to happen," he said, his tone plaintive. "Vanessa and I, it started as just friendship, collaboration. Then one night we were working late, had too much wine. Spare me the details." I held up a hand. "I don't care how it started. I care that you continued it. Made a choice every day to betray me. I was going to end it." I laughed bitterly. "When?" "Soon. I've been trying to figure out how. It's complicated. We work together. There are professional considerations." "Professional considerations," I repeated incredulously. "That's what you were worried about? Your career?" He looked away. "Among other things. Like what? Our marriage? Because that clearly wasn't a priority. That's not fair. We haven't been happy, Eliza. Not really. Not for a long time. So talk to me about it. Or go to counseling. Or ask for a divorce. Any of those would have been better than what you did." Nathan sank onto the bench in the hallway, head in his hands. I know that now. I was a coward. I stood over him, anger and grief warring within me. "I spoke to a lawyer this morning. Richard Chen. We have an appointment at 4. His head snapped up. "Today? Eliza, isn't this moving too fast? We should take some time, think this through. I've had enough of your stalling tactics. This marriage is over. The only question now is how painful you want to make the divorce. What does that mean? It means if you agree to my terms, we can do this quickly and quietly. If not," I took a deep breath. "I have evidence, Nathan. Texts I've saved. Credit card statements showing dinners on work nights. And now I have an Uber driver who can testify to your Thursday routine." The color drained from Nathan's face. "You'd ruin my reputation? My career? You did that yourself when you started sleeping with a colleague while married." We stared at each other across the foyer that had once been the entryway to our shared life. Now it felt like a demilitarized zone between enemy territories. "What are your terms?" he asked finally, voice hollow. "The house. My full share of our assets. And a clean break. No alimony either direction. No ongoing entanglements. That's fair," I finished for him. "Considering the circumstances, it's more than fair." He seemed to age before my eyes, the confident, ambitious man I'd married suddenly looking small and defeated. "And if I agree to this, then we can both move on with our lives. You can be with Vanessa openly if that's what you want. I hesitated. "I can start over." Nathan was quiet for a long moment. "I did love you, Eliza. I still do, in a way." The words stung more than they should have. Just not enough. "I don't know what happened to us. I do. You made choices, Nathan. A series of choices that led us here." I glanced at my watch. "I need to get ready for the lawyer." "You should go." He stood slowly. "Can I get some of my things at least? I'll have Tara here when you come. Text before you arrive." I opened the front door pointedly. "And Nathan? I'd appreciate if you returned your key. The old one. For closure." He reached into his pocket, removed his keychain, and with visible reluctance, worked the house key free. He placed it in my outstretched palm, his fingers brushing mine for the last time. "I'm sorry," he said, and I believed he meant it. "For everything. I know." My anger hadn't disappeared. But something else was emerging alongside it, a strange, sad compassion for this man who'd broken my heart, but was now breaking his own as well. Goodbye, Nathan. He hesitated on the threshold. Will you be okay? The question surprised me, as did my answer. Yes, I think I will be. After he left, I closed and locked the door with the new key. The house felt emptier than before, yet somehow lighter too, as if a weight had lifted. I moved through the rooms again, this time seeing not what had been lost, but what could be reimagined. The living room without Nathan's minimalist influence. The kitchen reorganized to my preference. The guest room transformed into the home office I'd always wanted. I sat at the dining table where we'd shared thousands of meals, opened my laptop and began a list titled Next Steps. By the time I needed to leave for the lawyer's appointment, the list had grown to 2 pages. Practical items like close joint accounts and notify insurance, but also aspirational ones. Take that photography class, weekend in Montreal, call about the community garden project. As I gathered my things to leave, my phone chimed with a text from an unknown number. Just checking in. Hope you're hanging in there. Marco. I smiled, adding a new item to my list. Thank the Uber driver who changed everything. Outside, the rain had stopped. The air smelled fresh and new as I walked to my car, keys gripped firmly in my hand, ready to unlock whatever came next.
And that wraps up today's story. Now we want to hear from you. Where are you watching from? Drop your city or country in the comments, and let's see how far these stories reach. If this story moved you or gave you chills, give it a like, share, and subscribe for more powerful stories. One last thing, rate the story from 1 to 10 in the comments. Your feedback helps us bring you even better ones next time. Thanks for watching. We appreciate you being part of this storytelling journey.